Osiris.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Corner of Gray Street podcast. I'm Bruce. That's Nolan. And this time we have another special guest. Miss Maggie Rose is joining us. Maggie, how's it going? Thanks for hopping on.
Hi, guys. Hi, Bruce and Nolan. I'm pumped to be here.
We're pumped to have you. Yeah, we can't wait to kind of dive into your Gorge weekend experience where you got to open for the band night 3.
It feels like it was so long ago because it was the beginning of a month-long tour. We were in Pacific Northwest for that weekend, and then we got back to Nashville, and then we did the Northeast for the rest of the month. So, but I would have traveled from anywhere to be able to make it to that.
Oh yeah. As do the fans.
Yeah, they do. They're from everywhere. I mean, we met the coolest people that weekend.
We cannot wait to talk about that. It's going to be just incredible. So yeah, obviously, if you did not know, Maggie and her band, they joined DMB on night 3 of the Gorge this year as one of the opening acts. Dave typically picks he has just such awesome picks, and again did this year. One of our faves, Corey Wong, was out there night 2, and then Maggie. So we've got Saturday and Sunday covered. Who has been on the pod at least this year. So that's awesome, Maggie. Welcome. And what we'd like to do, obviously, what we'd like to do just a little bit, because we really want to dive into this Gorge experience for you and some of the stuff that you're getting into currently in 2024. But give our audience just a little bit of an inkling of how you became who you are today, like what your early life and career, just a little bit of tidbits, how you got into music and stuff, and just a little bit of background of who Maggie Rose is.
Absolutely. Well, I grew up in the DMV as well, so saw lots of Dave Matthews at Nissan Pavilion, now Jiffy Lube Live, but moved to Nashville when I was a teenager. I was just beginning my sophomore year at Clemson and got a really great opportunity to make music with this producer in Nashville, and was signed shortly after. It sounds so much more accessible than it was. Now I just kind of look back and I'm like, I'm glad I took that leap of faith, because I started off in country and my music has really evolved to more of like a soul rock Americana place. But all those opportunities and that group of people that I was working with, they were the catalyst to get me to move to Nashville and really begin a career seriously in music, where I was writing songs every day, and it was a very baptism by fire kind of experience. But I've just released my 4th album called No One Gets Out Alive, and I think a lot like my music has changed, so has Nashville. So we've kind of grown up together, and our growth has correlated in terms of just all the different genres of music that you see made here. I think having all these great people to collaborate with has rubbed off on me a lot, and being able to sit in with people and learn from them and just be in a town of really talented people has helped me kind of diversify my sound and do that self-exploration that's gotten me to the kind of music that I'm making now.
We love Nashville, and so does Jeff Coffin. Hometown is Nashville. We've also had on the pod.
Jeff.
Have you met Jeff before, like in Nashville?
Yes, I would argue that Jeff might be one of the people that facilitated this opportunity for me, because
likely
he's been very vocal about his appreciation of what I do, which is super humbling considering what an incredible musician he is. His album that he just put out is so good. It's such good listening, and I was trying to get home from a show that I was doing in Cape Cod to catch him at 3rd and Lindsley in Nashville because that would have just been a master class. But anytime I get to see him around town is awesome just because he's super kind, but he's very prolific and he can kind of jump in any setting too and be right at home if not everyone's trying to keep up with him. But he saw me at the Ryman. I was opening up for the Mavericks, and I think he really enjoyed our set. And I made a joke of like, "Hey, put in a good word for us." And he's like, "God, no one listens to me anyway." Self-deprecating as he is, but I have a feeling that he may have helped me in being the squeaky wheel. I can
I
only
bet it was him.
speculate. He won't own up to it. I've asked him, but he won't take any credit.
Well, we know he was the reason Corey Wong guested with them, and that kind of relationship started up last year. Um, but we also have friends in the podcast game, Rustin Kelly and Clint Wells in Nashville too.
Yeah,
Huge DMB fans. Um, so yeah,
great
just a
musicians
hotbed.
too.
Yeah, hotbed for musicians, country music, rock, and DMB fans apparently.
I've seen Dave Matthews at a Bridgestone Arena in Nashville as well, and it was really cool who I ran into when I was there. I mean, I think that he's such a musician's musician.
Hmm.
Even if you don't know all his discography, there's just no denying that it's electric to watch that chemistry between all of them on stage and as they're exchanging it. And like it's very evident that there's a lot of improvisation happening too. Um, which is it's just thrilling to watch, especially when you're a touring musician who might be playing for someone who's amazing but has like a very hard rehearsed tight set that they don't deviate from. I think it's just like a different way to approach music that's kind of a breath of fresh air for people who are out there grinding out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what's really cool about you, Maggie, is that not only are you kicking ass with great music, the new album is excellent. We really do like it and really do. We promote. We want people to go listen to that. I mean, we certainly recommend it. It's seemingly a maturation, I guess, of your career, like an evolution of you as a singer songwriter and all of those things. And it was really really good. And we hope that you do get some of those Grammy nominations that it could potentially be up for. That would be awesome.
Thank you. It's a long
But
road. We're on it, but it's
that's
a long
right.
one.
Long and winding.
Yes.
But there's other things that you're into as well, and that were super cool to us, which is obviously, kind of, other things that you bring in other musicians, kind of like what we tried to do, but you have done it for years now on your podcast, which is another Osiris podcast. So shout out to Osiris. We're part of the fam.
Yeah.
And this
Osiris
one
fam.
is, yeah, that's right. Well, this one is Salute the Songbird podcast, right? So,
Yes.
um, incredible list of all the female musicians that you've had on there, and some of our just kind of really, honestly, all time favorites. You got Susan Tedeschi, Brandy Carlisle, Karina Reichman, Jen Hartswick is on there, and just, I mean, list goes on. But kind of tell everyone, because we want them to listen to this too,
I'm
kind of
still
about
trying to
your.
get Brandy Carlisle. So if you're listening, Brandy,
She
I
wasn't on.
want you to
I
come
just saw her
on.
name listed. I'm sorry,
I That's
Brandy.
totally fine. You know
Get
what?
on it.
We're manifesting this right now.
That's
She
right.
was a Gorge opener, so
That's right.
I was going to talk about her. But yeah, that's my selfish way of connecting with musicians, and I kid, but it was something that I missed so much during the pandemic. Is like one of the reasons that you guys probably love Nashville and that I do is that any given night you're rubbing elbows with these musicians who you respect and you admire and who make you better. And when we were cut off from doing that. That was my way of just stoking those fires of creativity by researching these people, listening to their music, you know, thinking that, oh, Melissa Etheridge has this great career. She, like, what could she want? And then you research her life and just the things she's gone through to get to where she is. There's something oddly comforting about that, and it definitely provided a lot of solace for me. So I don't know when this will air, but we're launching the new season of Salute the Songbird tomorrow. Um, so that will be October 16th for those of you listening in the future. And Grace Bowers is going to be my first guest, but we've completely reformatted the show to where now it's in front of a live audience. And um, that feels like kind of a cool full circle moment to now bring this reformatted version of a show that was born from a time where we couldn't be in front of an audience now to that energy where we're going to have a room full of people and there will be a musical component at the beginning and end of the show. And the list is always growing. I think I collaborate with so many men and women and different types of creators, but for me to just have a long form discussion with another musician, there is something really cool about talking to just a guest list of women because there's a perspective that I think we both have that just makes us kind of approach it a little bit differently. We talk about motherhood, or we talk about kind of being outnumbered just in the touring space, from band to crew. And sometimes it goes to really crazy places like plant-based medicine alternatives. Melissa Etheridge started this foundation, and you're just like, all right, let's go there. And I love the spontaneity of it. So I'm really looking forward to kicking that off again.
Oh, that's exciting. We've never really like dabbled in the live podcast game. We used to do Instagram live back during the pandemic
Sure.
when DNB would do their drive-through, drive-in concert series,
Yes.
and we
Yeah.
would do like a preview of it. But we've always been interested in doing a live podcast. How is that going to be for you? And I mean, do you feel like it's second hat since you perform live all the time, or are you a little nervous about it? How's that
I'm a little
feel?
nervous about it. I mean, I think good nerves. I'm trying to channel that energy, but I also know that it's going to fly by. I don't want to. I have a great editor for the episodes that we've released thus far, but I still really like the very real time kind of report.
Oops.
Did I lose you guys?
Yeah, you're back.
I'm back. See, this happened a lot too, so we won't have any dropouts during the live show, but we will be live streaming it. So we're gonna have that
Cool.
technical component to deal with. We're gonna film it and have some pretty cool production value to like a multicam shot. My band's going to be uh, playing an intro, a very small intro set with me, and then every episode they'll be backing up my guest on 3 songs of their choosing, which I think is super exciting for everyone involved. I think my band is really capable, so it'll be fun to be able to be like, all right, the interview's done, and now I'm gonna go watch you guys kick ass up there with one of my musical heroes. So um, there's certainly nerves, but I'm also gonna just approach it with a lot of grace. And also, I think your guest will they're gonna try and put on a good show with me. So I imagine that it'll be kind of a fun collaboration with whoever I have on because we'll be up there trying to take into account the fact that there's an audience in front of us.
Yeah, it's
But
such a cool
hopefully I'll make
format.
them forget a little bit so that we can still just let it flow.
Absolutely.
I'm super excited to see where that goes. And if we're ever in Nashville and one of those is happening, we have to stop by because that just sounds really, really cool. It sounds just like a way cooler late night show with cooler, more down to earth, like musicians and knowledgeable folks, yourself, actually speaking to the people instead of just making jokes for 30 minutes. So
You have
that
an
is
open invitation. Speaking of
excellent.
late night
Oh,
shows,
thanks.
though, yeah, absolutely. And we're doing it once a month, so we're trying to give people, uh, a couple of weeks notice for every time we book our guest. And I think I will miss the bi-weekly aspect of it and just not having as many guests. Um, but I'm trying to just let the show format galvanize a little bit, and then maybe we'll add more to the schedule in coming seasons. Um, but Grace Bauer is my guest that I'm having tomorrow. Speaking of late night, she's part of the Colbert band right now. So
Excellent.
she's going to be coming in really hot to our show. And I was watching it last night and kind of falling asleep. And then I heard them introducing Pamela Anderson. And the interstitial music that they used was the song that Grace, AC, and I wrote together. So
No
it's a
Oh,
kidding.
song
wow.
called Madam President. Also, we wrote this months ago before that was a prospect, which is actually the point of the song. It's like, yeah, when I see Madam President, I can afford a house, all those things.
Mhm.
Love
But I
it.
heard it, and it was Pamela Anderson just like walking over to her chair, and it's like, dun, 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 dun. And I was like, oh
Oh,
shit,
amazing.
there we go. So that was pretty awesome. And I actually wanted my band when Grace was walking on stage to play an instrumental of Madam President. So I was like, there you go. There's your reference right
They
there.
stole the idea.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Felt very
And
nice to have that. Yeah.
that's amazing. And then the D&B connection, like most of Colbert's band has guested with D&B on stage at
Totally.
MSG like
Mhm.
every time. So that's amazing. Which is a great
That's the
segue.
caliber of musicians that he
That's
has
right.
though, because that is a stressful gig because
Mhm.
what if your guest is just kind of moseying up to the chair and like greeting their audience members and they're just
Finger
taking
guns.
yeah,
Yeah.
Shooter McGavin all over the place and they take a long time to get to their chair. Like there's laser focus between the band just like sometimes it might not even be even measures like you're just ending it when they sit down and
Mhm.
that's a group of musicians who play very second nature and who also are paying attention to each other. That's
They're really
unscripted.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got like
Yeah.
Louis Cato and then all the horns and yeah, they're really cool. But yeah, now I think it's time to segue into what everyone wants us to talk about. We could talk with Maggie about all this other stuff all day, but she doesn't have all day. Okay, and we got to get to DMB. You're a longtime
Yeah.
fan, Maggie. Why don't you tell us about it? Just gush, fawn over the band and things. But how did that start? Like, how old were you when you first started listening to them and everything?
I definitely would attribute the early fandom to my older sister and all of her friends. It was my first show that I went to with my friends where we like I think we all chartered a bus. We like pooled our money together to go to Nissan Pavilion, which is in Manassas, Virginia, now known as Jiffy Lube Live, which I got to talk to Dave about this after the show. We both agree the name could use some work. So Nissan Pavilion was better.
Yeah.
And because of his ties to Virginia, I do feel like I was pretty lucky growing up to have lots of opportunities to go see him. And it was one of those amphitheaters that has the great lawn and then the covered seating. So as a high schooler, I could afford these lawn tickets and we'd go every time. And it was also a really cool way to bond with my friends because it's like a little bit of a drive to get there from where we grew up. We'd listen to their records the whole way there and wait by the gates. As soon as the gates opened, we'd run down to be like front row of the lawn and find our spot. And it
Love
would
it.
be my way to hang out with my older sister and all of her cool friends, and just felt really nostalgic. And then I think, once my musical education, moving to Nashville, and my appreciation for musicianship really started to sharpen, I had like this whole new rekindling of love for Dave Matthews and the band and the music and the way that he puts sets together. And I the way that I was a fan of music as a high schooler is really different than how I consume music now. So I think it's kind of like my second wave of rediscovery, which has been which has been really cool. And you see what a big movement it is. Like you see how much of a network this fandom is, and how intentional like the sequencing of an album is, or even the fact that they don't hardly ever have openers. So when we were asked for this opening gig, like it just felt like a really big honor, considering how I know him to be someone who doesn't necessarily have a show that requires that. So yeah, I was revisiting the set list from the two nights that I got to go to at the Gorge, and it was just so cool how custom it felt from every other DMB show that I had been to. And in that setting with that backdrop, and like my arm at that point had wristbands like all the way up to my elbow from people that had been giving me their wristbands. And I looked at a picture of it the other day, and like a lot of the ones that I was wearing that night, he ended up playing uh, those two nights, the song titles that were on my arm. So I was like, oh, okay, maybe there's power in these bracelets.
It was a sign.
Manifesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's one of the main reasons we still love Dave after all these years, the unique sets, no shows the same. And it's funny, the stuff that you just said in our last episode, we had Rick Materatonda from Goose
Yeah.
on, and
Those guys
he
are awesome. They approach music in a lot of similar ways.
oh yeah. Oh, we love them. And but
Hmm.
he said the same thing. His older sister got him into DMB, and he is just now like rediscovering the discography and looking at it through
Yeah.
a different lens as a songwriter now, and
Oh,
doing it
that's
as a
so cool that he
career.
said it, that he sees it that way too, because like it was just such a community. And now I'm like, oh shit, this is intimidating to watch them. And um but in the best way. I mean, and the first of all, or let me just, I'm all over the place because I'm excited, but as a person, as like a human being, um I was so blown away by how welcoming and kind he was. My band my band, we have this little ritual before we play where I have this intro music and we act a fool, like we're all dancing and there's like this French horn. Like we built an intro that's composed of the orchestral parts, arrangements on my album, and it's like all mashed together and it sounds scary and psychedelic, and like suggestions of the way that they actually play out on the record, but not quite. And we didn't know, but Dave was watching us the whole time, and we're over here like, like making these crazy, uh, like not graceful or beautiful dance motions to just kind of like get that, uh, the jitters away. And after the show, he's like, I was just watching you guys, and it's so crazy, like how much you love each other, and like you give a fuck, but you don't. And I feel like like we gave a big one. That's why we were dancing like that, to get it away, get the jitters away. But he also, after we embarrassed ourselves, like he came up and he said hello and introduced himself to everybody, took pictures with us. And this is at like 5 o'clock, and he's got a huge night ahead of him. He's had huge nights already that he's gotten through. And I think he's wearing his same outfit that he ends up wearing on the show for his set. Like, there's no big outfit change or reveal. Like,
Yeah.
he's just
The
like, I'm
big
ready.
Dave
I'm
reveal.
ready for the night. Yeah, like he's in the blue button down he's gonna wear later. Just not pretentious at all. And then he goes out on stage and he introduces us to the crowd. And it's he's totally shooting from the hip. Like, he's just saying the nicest stuff about how he's been following my career for a while. He says, I've been stalking this artist. I'm like, you are welcome to stalk me more. And just like makes it so that it's such a warm environment for us to go into, that by the time we get on stage, like, we're already having a blast. And that crowd is just received this full-throated endorsement from their favorite artist about us, and it's like we just get to go out there and do what we do. Um, and I've opened for a lot of really amazing, humble, generous people who I've loved touring with, but I've never expected any of them to come out before my set and introduce me before I get on stage. That's just not something I would expect of anybody to do. And he was kind enough. My mom was with me, my aunt was with me. They both were very excited to be there. And we went to this little family party at the end of the evening because it was the last night of the Gorge run. And he's got like his whole crew there, their families. There's a whole circle of baby strollers with babies in it and pizza. And I was like, this is like Happy Gilmore's happy place. Like, when he goes into the daydream, just like it just was amazing. And I talked to him and he was so nice and had a million people there to speak to him, but I just thanked him for that moment opening for us. And he said, I won't name the artist, but he said, back in the day, I opened for so and so, and the crowd was like, F you. And it was like Carter was getting mad, and that it just was not a fun experience. But I was reading between the lines, and I'm sure that it was just, uh, they weren't giving them the space that they deserved. I think it's all about, as you guys know, like setting the tone. Any show, it's harder to recover if you are off to a bad start, but it's easier to build momentum if you're cooking from the beginning. So he said, I decided if I ever have openers, I'm not going to let them walk into that kind of a situation. So pretty remarkable. I if I were going to see Beyonce and she walked out at 5 o'clock, 5 p.m. when the lights were still on and people were getting their snacks and drinks and introduce people, that would be like peeking behind the curtain, And I
Hmm.
think he
Oh
just
yeah.
doesn't have any pretenses about that. So
He's the best.
cool dude.
Yes.
Totally, totally a fan.
I think everybody that has met him has had something similar to say. Like if you know Dave, you love him.
Yeah.
Um
Well, and
he's
he's quirky and unaffected. Like, all the things you think about him, like he'll make sound effects while he's talking and be like, "Brr, boop," and like it's part of his story. So
yeah,
I think and I'm like, I get it. I understand more what you're saying because of your implementation of these like these buzzes and boops.
he's
He's
one
just
of a
scatting.
kind. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like,
Um
yeah, that makes it make sense more.
yeah. So you made your return to the Gorge. We had said before this that it was 10 years since you had been to the Gorge. What was this time like for you getting there a day early and taking it all in, uh, night 2 from the lawn and then night 3 side stage? What was that experience like for you seeing D&B again in that setting?
Well, I had my mother and my aunt with me and my husband. and we weren't on the lawn. We were in the pit. We were in it.
Oh,
So
okay.
it was, yeah, and I was happy to be there. Maybe it was a little intense for my mom, who she's such a trooper, but I didn't really prep her a lot. I was like, here's what we're doing. Um, and we had also flown all day, her from DC, Austin and I from Nashville to Seattle, then to Waxahachie. Then we got in
Mm,
a car and then we drove and then we parked our car and then we walked around and we bought our merch and we uh, found our spot. We met all the people, like we were getting our wristbands, not for access. We were getting like our souvenir wristbands that all the fans were
mhm.
handing out. Um, and just if there was no music at all later that night, I think that would just be an astonishing day to get to the gorge. The weather was perfect, and just see how sprawling that venue is. And all the cars in the lot had like how many years in a row people had been to DMB at the gorge. Like a lot of numbers were like 20 years or more. Um, and of course, my mom's like, "Well, she's performing tomorrow to people," and they were just like, "Oh my god, no way!" And like it just was like the happiest, warmest reception. And then of course, uh, what was the first band the second night?
Blind Pilot.
Blind Pilot, and their Pacific Northwest band. I thought their music was beautiful, and it was really different from Corey Wong, who was after that. And I know Corey and love like what they do. It just felt like a really cool, well-rounded night of music. Um, and then he had Corey out during his set, and
Mm.
I just had the sets pulled up, and I was going through my happy memory lane.
Yeah,
Um,
Corey got to guest on 41, and it's one of the best versions of all
yeah,
time now. I mean, it was so sick.
Oh, yeah.
it was crazy. It was crazy. And Jimmy Thing, and the horn section came
Yep.
out.
Yes.
Yep.
Oh, and he started with Crush, and everyone freaked out, and it was like such a dramatic opening for
Mhm.
my first Dave set at the Gorge, and my first Dave set in probably like 4 years since I saw him at the Bridgestone Arena in Nashville, which was
Awesome.
also an incredible show. But I'm seated and like kind of in my backyard. I didn't have to trek across the country to get there and feel like it was like I'm here. Um, so it just felt like a big climactic moment.
Oh man, I
I
can
bet.
only imagine. Like the gorge is just a celebration of so many things. It's hard to encapsulate it, to be honest. So then you go, obviously an excellent night two into night three, and you are actually performing. Tell us about that day, and then about what it was like side stage. Obviously, getting to take in that set.
Yes. Uh, so we get there. His whole crew and staff couldn't be nicer. The experience we had on Saturday was great. I mean, they took care of us, and we were in the pit, and we got to like go to a little VIP tent and chill after. You got to be in shape to go to the gorge, friends. Like
Yes.
or drink some water and put on shoes for climbing hills. But then the second day, you're backstage and you just have like the best view. There's a little spot where you can hit golf balls off into the canyon. And it had been a
Carter's
long
favorite.
time since I had been at Watershed, but Watershed's like a whole different culture and backstage vibe, and even the stage setup is different. So it's kind of felt like the first time again, which is not me just being dramatic, but uh, yeah, his whole staff was awesome. We were able to just hang out backstage, side stage. There's so much space. My set was really fun because I had made so many friends the night before. I could like see people out in the crowd and I was like, "Oh, hey, like you said you'd show up early. Here you are." And people are camped out there all day. So, even though the day becomes a little bit more saturated with people, you forget after my show, I was like, I forget just how many people I just played in front of because it's so spread out. I was like, there was like probably 20,000 people out there. And even though it doesn't feel like you have them all like on top of you the way you might in some other spaces, like it just I felt the impact of my set in the days that followed because there's just so many people that connected with us and reached out to us, and had discovered us through that 45-minute set that we did there. And then Nico Case was after, and Nico and Dave have a lot of history. And again, like the night before, I felt like musically it was a really cool, diverse way to lead up to Dave's set. And then Dave's set began, and I was just like riding the rail right up side stage and listening to Carter's mix in between songs. And I don't want to like betray their trust, but the exchange in between songs was my favorite part of the whole
Oh yeah.
night because it just showed to me, whoa, this is super spontaneous. And sometimes Dave would say, hey, can you give us a taste of that song? Because they have so many songs and they've been playing so many. And then whoever would just play them a little bit of it. Okay. And then just go in and crush it. And then after the song was over, they were so genuinely congratulatory of each other and loving that like it made me and my bandmates emotional. We were like, they love
Oh,
each other.
It's
They're
amazing.
like, yeah, man, look at that response. And it just was really, I mean, they probably said it a lot cooler and less clinical than I just said it, but um I don't know, it's like making me tear up a little bit because there's just so much joy and ribbing on each other. um and they even brought a crew guy out to play a
Joe Lawler.
Lawler.
yes.
He's been
Yeah.
on the
Thank
pod
you.
too.
Yeah.
He's the
Okay, he
man.
was so cool. Yeah, I'm
The
see how
man.
overwhelmed I'm getting. Like there was just so much I had to pull up the set just to be like, what actually happened that night. Um, and So Damn Lucky is like one of my favorites. And my friend was just having a baby that day, and that's her favorite song. I think she'd had a baby like the day before, so she was very emotional that I was there, because that
Wow.
song was very important to her story. Um, so yeah, and then they play like familiar songs like Gray Street, and it just almost feels like you've been holding your breath for the whole night, and everyone's just like, bah!
Yeah.
So
So
cool.
yeah.
Oh,
Oh
we
man.
went in 2021 together, and I mean, it's the only time we've been, but it's just you can't beat it. You
It's a
cannot
bit of
beat.
it's a mecca to like you gotta work
Hmm.
to get there.
You definitely
Yeah.
do, and
You
so
have a
there's
lot of work.
Mhm.
so much to take in too. I can't imagine playing a set and then the interactions with Dave and the band and all of that. It
Yes.
must just like all run together a little bit.
Yes, it does. I mean, as you can see, my recounting of the evening is like a traffic jam of what to talk about first.
No, it's
I
good.
love it though. I love that you got to experience so much of it too. I mean, when we went, Rustin, he actually got to open one of the nights, and so we
Hmm.
obviously saw him and watched him do that. But I don't think he got to actually experience the shows as much. They had to like go back to Seattle and like do this and
Sure.
all these other things. And
Hmm.
so it's really cool to get perspective from you, where you actually got to experience multiple nights
Yeah.
from the pit and then side stage, and it's just super cool. And you had similar stories as others getting that Carter mix in, and it's just a completely different world.
Absolutely. And you're right, that is usually not my experience of getting to come in a day early. Like, usually I would have had a show on Saturday, and I think, luckily Austin, my husband, who we also work together, we just had the wherewithal to be like, this is a really special moment. Let's just try to take it. And we knew we were also about to go on tour 20 shows in 25 days, like right after that. So
Oh,
let's enjoy this weekend. And my mom making it out there with my aunt Kippy, who's also one of the producers of my podcast. She's someone I credit very much for my more eclectic musical knowledge, because I would have just listened to like top 40 growing up. But then my aunt Kippy would make me all these burn CDs of all these really cool artists that um, she knew, because she, lived in Hermosa Beach for a while, and she just like she was very hip and knew the indie scene as well. So I got to bring her along and just make the most of it, and she was very excited. It was nice to return the favor on the musical experience front.
shout out Aunt Kippy. Everyone
Yeah,
needs an Aunt
Kip.
Kippy. That's
Yeah.
Yeah,
dope. I
I would
love that.
agree.
That's
Yep.
awesome. All
She
right.
helps me do all the research for my podcast. So we're just she does it for free.
You have a
But
you
yeah,
have a
Wow.
sick family team, like
I
with
do.
obviously Aunt Kippy, and then your husband as well on the team.
Well,
Oh
and you
man,
guys are
that's
part of the Osiris fam too. So
boom. Yeah,
we
family
we
all
got
around.
people. We got people. Okay.
As
Oh
Dave
yeah.
always says, I got people here.
Yes.
All right, it's time to bring Maggie in for some rapid fire
I'm
and
scared.
give his. You should be, obviously, give as
Okay.
much or as little as you'd like, and we'll start off. Favorite venue you've ever played?
The Gorge.
Boom.
Easy. Favorite venue you've attended?
This is gonna be a
Not the
boring
Gorge.
interview. I can't say the Gorge.
Yeah,
No.
not the Gorge.
Oh, I have to do a different one. Okay. Well, I love the Ryman. The
Hmm.
Ryman is super special to me.
Shout out Alex Brandt.
Yeah, friend of the pod, works at the Ryman.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay, who is the best female musician of all time?
Oh my God.
Putting you on the spot.
Nancy Wilson.
Okay. Love it.
That's really, really tough.
That is a tough one.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can give multiple answers if you'd like. Sometimes we
Oh
let people
God.
indulge.
Aretha Franklin.
It's like 20 minutes later, Maggie's still going with a bunch of other
This is
artists.
so unfair. I mean, because I'm thinking songwriter, singer, piano. Like, there's musician is such a broad.
Yeah. Aretha's
Yeah.
that's a safe pick. Safe pick.
Yeah.
I think Tim rocked a
Good pick.
sweet Aretha shirt this tour somewhere. I want to say it was Tim that had on an Aretha Franklin shirt at one of the shows, which is
Susie
awesome. All right,
Quattro. Susie Quattro might be a good one.
there we go. We've got 3 right
My
there
bass
for
player,
you
yeah.
all. I love
She's
that.
like one of the big inspirations for so many great female rock stars after. So yeah, Miss Quattro's got to get her propers.
Shout out Quattro. All right, how many DMB shows do you know the number that you've attended, and what's your favorite one that you've ever been to? All right, she's not a counter. What's your favorite one?
If I had discovered him after a certain age, I'd be a counter. But I'd say the one that I got to stand side stage at on September 1st.
Boom.
Yeah, I'd say side stage would do it with the Carter mix. Favorite DMB album?
I don't know.
All
I
of
don't
them.
have one. Yeah.
I was gonna say I don't think that's an album, but I mean maybe it's the next one. Is that
Yeah.
Dave's new album name?
I do love Madman's Eyes on Saturday was probably my favorite of the set. So
So
Great
with
song.
that, yeah. And the next question would be your favorite all-time DMB song.
for sentimental reasons, Crash.
Excellent.
Excellent.
Yeah.
If Dave asked you to come on stage and sing a song with him in the band, and you got to pick, what song would you choose to sing on?
Does it have to be? I mean, it can be one that he performs.
Sure.
To outside.
Yeah, whatever you want.
Long Black Veil.
I love that answer.
Perfect.
All right, last one before we get you out of here, Maggie. If you and your band, who's also awesome, were to cover a D&B song, which you should, which one would it be?
Well, we'd kind of discussed this, and I think Gray Street would be the one, but we'd kind of mess with the arrangement a little bit. Yeah.
Excellent.
That was
what a great answer.
We haven't had a serious conversation, but just from my inferences, that's the answer I'd have to settle on.
I feel like she's just playing to the podcast, Corner of Gray Street podcast.
If an album comes out called I Don't Know, then I'm going to feel super prophetic right now. But yeah, I can't answer that with sincerity. I need to figure that out for you guys. Maybe that'll be my fun evening activity.
There you go.
Yeah.
You and Austin can go through the discography, and then y'all can let us know, and then maybe we'll edit it in. We'll just show like a screenshot of Austin. We'll send me a text or something, and be like, "It's this album." All right, great.
Yeah.
Maggie, you are incredible. Thank you so much, obviously, for your time, but for expanding upon your experience and all of that with D&B. And just, it is always so fun to talk to, obviously, just incredible musicians, but just down to earth fans too. And this has been a lot of fun.
Thank you. You guys are awesome. I'm so happy to know you, and you got to come to a podcast show.
Oh my gosh, that'd be so much fun.
We're gonna try. We'll get a whole Osiris family pod thing going. We'll just get a bunch of musicians, and we'll just stand side stage, and we'll get the
Osiris family reunion. Yes.
RJ, get on that.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much.
No problem. And everybody, check out Maggie's latest album, No One Gets Out Alive. We really enjoyed it, and think you will too. And we will see you all next time on the Corner of Gray Street.
Osiris.